All right, the first topic we're going to dive into is Deshaun Watson has demanded a trade. The three-time Pro Bowler for the Houston Texans and former first-round pick has officially demanded a trade. Michael, are you shocked at all that Deshaun Watson has or wants out of Houston?
I don't really blame him because they've kind of been wasting a lot of his good years, and not just him, but a lot of players, like JJ Watt, they kind of wasted his prime. So I don't really blame him, but I am a little bit shocked just because he is the future of the franchise. And I actually heard earlier today that the Houston GM didn't want to trade him either, so that made it kind of interesting too.
Well, I don't think they would want to, especially with the GM for the Texans. I can't remember his name now. It's Nick Casario or something like that. It's his first seat, or he just got hired a few weeks ago, and
Hmm.
this is his first year, so of course he doesn't want to trade away their future. So I can see why he doesn't, and of course, but I didn't. It didn't make any sense that they went out and hired David Cauley, who I didn't know much about. I like the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson, but I had no idea who David Cauley was, and they didn't even want to hire Eric Bieniemy. They didn't even interview him until basically Deshaun Watson forced him to. So it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm
Yeah.
not really surprised he's demanded a trade, but it'll definitely be interesting going forward. What team could you see
Hmm.
Deshaun Watson going to?
Uh, I can maybe see him going to the Steelers just because Big Ben or the Saints too. I think because I think they both kind of need their future. Especially the Saints because Drew Brees. It could be his last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they reported. I think they reported after, before the Saints and Buccaneers game, if the Saints were to lose, this would be Drew Brees' final game. But yeah, everybody's right now saying the Dolphins or the Bears. I think the Bears don't deserve Deshaun Watson because I feel like he's walking into the same thing he was in Houston. I mean, they have a
Yeah.
good team, but that management is just messed up. They had a chance to draft him with the number 2 overall pick as well as Patrick Mahomes. Instead, they took Mitch Trubisky. I could see him. Not a lot of people are talking about this, but I could see him going to the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have a lot of things. I mean, John Gruden, is he sold on Derek Carr? I don't think he is. I'm not sold on Derek Carr. They have the weapons. They got a good running back. The defense has got to be fixed for sure. Yeah, but I mean, if they get Deshaun Watson, that Raiders team might be one of the best in the AFC. Probably not better than the Chiefs, Ravens, or Bills, but they could be one of those teams. And he would be great with the Raiders. And of course, the Raiders have a lot of cap room, and they can afford a trade because they have so many picks. But
I could
we'll
also see him going to either the Lions or the Vikings too, especially the Vikings. 'Cause I think the Vikings would be a really good fit because Kirk Cousins isn't great, and they still got a solid team, and they're still contenders. So, and then obviously the Lions, Matt Stafford, and them. So I don't know if he's going to be returning or not. So yeah, I can see the Lions also potentially making a push for them.
Well, I didn't even think about the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, I don't think he's that great, but he managed to get a massive contract before the season started. And before, I think it was in 2019, he led the Vikings to a playoffs and took down the Saints in New Orleans in the first round of the playoffs, which was pretty incredible. But yeah, I haven't mentioned the Vikings. The problem I have with that trade is they have no defense. And if they basically trade three first round picks for Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins and maybe some more picks, they're not going to have any money or draft capital to make that move or to make the defense better. But again, if you score a lot of points, you don't really need a defense. And of course, the Lions, they're going to move on for Matt Stafford, but I feel like they want just a fresh new start, and they're likely going to draft a quarterback. They're likely, and I think they want to get a first round pick for Matt Stafford, which I think they will. But we'll see what happens going forward. If the Texans do move on from Deshaun Watson, do they draft a quarterback? What do you think,
I think they
Michael?
pretty much have to because who else do they got? Or either that, or they could maybe get a solid quarterback in free agency. But I think their best bet is probably want to be drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they made a move with the Dolphins, and even if they traded, because if they trade with the Dolphins, they'd get the third overall pick, and they would probably receive Tua in that. But I don't even know if Tua Tagovailoa is the future, or they've if I don't think the Dolphins are sold on Tua. I don't think the Texans would be either. So if the Dolphins were to make that move and give three first round picks, maybe a third rounder and Tua, Do you think the Texans, if they got Tua, do you think they would still draft a quarterback with the third overall pick?
Not necessarily the third overall pick. Maybe they might draft like a mid-round quarterback just to have competition, but I don't. I think they would likely just give him a shot, and if he can't prove it, then eventually they'll draft a quarterback. But I think they'll at least give Tua a shot.
Yeah, I think Tua's not a bad quarterback. I just think he's got a lot of work to do. And plus, this was his rookie season, so you got to give him some slack. He didn't really have a lot of weapons except for Devontae Parker. No running game to speak of. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm going to draft either if Devontae Smith is still available, draft him. Maybe draft Jalen Waddle if he's available. And then probably draft Najee Harris with the 18th pick if they don't make the move for Deshaun Watson. And lastly,
Also, the other thing.
oh, yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you can go.
The other thing, with Tua going to the Texans is he's basically going to be going into a same situation yet with his rookie year, if not worse, because his only good receivers are Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, and he still doesn't have a great running game. Plus, the Texans also don't have a defense or an offensive line, so
Yeah, they pretty
it'd be
much don't have a
basically the same
team.
situation. But
Yeah, so you're pretty much saying they don't have a team, pretty much.
basically,
All right. What do you grade the Houston Texans hiring of David Cauley?
I don't really know too much about him, so I'm probably going to say like a B minus. But I have heard some pretty good things about him, so
Yeah, I mean, he's been a coach for what, 27 years with six different franchises, and he's been with Andy Reid, he's been with John Harbaugh. I think he was in Tampa for a while, he was in Philly for a while. I think mostly with Andy Reid. But yeah, I don't know if I like the grade a lot because the Ravens passing game was not great last year and the receivers were not very good to say the least. So I'm going to probably grade that a C to C minus. But again, John Harbaugh spoke very highly of him. I believe Lamar Jackson really liked David Cauley. So we'll see what happens, but I still think the Texans should have hired Eric Bieniemy, even though Deshaun Watson's mind was already made up. Thanks for listening to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and much more. We release new episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Sportstown Podcast. If you want to check out more videos of the Sportstown Podcast, click on the left. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on the right.